and they ready. So when they saw them, they kind of, they try to march off secretly. Remember they said, "I see you." We will kill you, and they try to march off secretly, and it still didn't work because when they marched up there, they saw how their men was all scrapped and ready, prepared and ready. So then the Jews who lived near them came and told us 10 times over, whenever you turn, they will attack us. So one of the Jews is terrified and scared. Scared. You're talking about they're gonna see us, they're gonna do this, and no matter where we go, they're gonna kill us. So he getting scared. So they prepare a prayer, to make themselves secure by placing God. And that's why when the enemy wants to attack secretly, they was terrified. One of the guys was terrified because when you pray, you have to know that God will protect you. They pray, but then they place guards and everything else for their security. And God's supposed to be our security. Once you pray, you have to believe that God gonna protect us. So there he's stationary. Some of the people behind the lower part of the wall at the opposed place, posting them by family, their son, their daughter, and so they placed the guard, place the guard by their family, place the guard, excuse me, I was belted at the same time. Place the guard by the family, the daughter, by anywhere it needs to be posted, by their family. So there was a high point. Remember they said they were behind the lower point of the wall. So there was a high part of the wall that he's stationary them by the lower point. See, they had the high point, they had a stationary by the lower point, I guess, to see when they come to try to attack them. So they couldn't frighten them from their duty. And that's what they try to do. They try to frighten them from their duty because they when they criticize them, they expect for them to stop, and they still was working. So they thought they were gonna frighten them to their duties or deceive them, or hurt them. So he put himself in his cause under God. The leader, he started praying and put himself under God protection. So after I looked things over, he said, I stood up and I said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, he told them, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord. Remember they prayed to God. That's what I'm saying. They're supposed to pray. When they pray to God, they were supposed to believe that God was going to protect them. They put guards in place, for their security. So the leader had said, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid with them. He said, remember the Lord who is great and awesome, and fight for your family, your son, your daughter, your wife, your husband, your homes. We see Nehemiah put his trust in God and hold them and told them, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of them, that God will fight for you and your family. So that's what he's saying. He said, don't be afraid. God gonna fight for you and your family. So they wanted to accomplish. You know, they want to accomplish. When you want to accomplish any large test, and you get tired, anybody gonna get tired for a long storm. You gonna get tired. And I know I'm in it, but I keep pushing forward. The enemy wants to try to stop you, but lean on to God. You may get discouraged, tired, and seem like it's impossible, but never quit. He told them to remember God, you know, and thank God, they had a leader who was encouraged them, to complete the project. And that's the thing. Sometimes you have to. They had a leader that encouraged them, and he was the one that started praying to God. But if you don't have no one to do that for you, sometimes you got to encourage yourself. You got to constantly keep on praying. You know, and you're gonna have an impossible, you know, job to do. But you got to remember, you got a God that can do the impossible. You're gonna be tired. You're gonna be weak. You ain't gonna have no strength. You know. But don't let the devil tear you down and tell you you cannot do it. Or tell you that's not gonna work out. We see how the devil like to discourage you. The devil like to criticize you. The devil like to laugh at you. But you cannot stop where you started. You have to accomplish and complete your project. So when our enemy heard that we were aware of their plot, and see, when you connected with God, you're gonna have that spiritual knowledge. You're gonna know what plots. Or sometimes God will allow to see. God gonna see you, allow you to see the plot. So when they were aware, that they know the plot that they was coming against them, God had frustrated, and we all returned to the wall, each to our own work. And remember, they wanted to quit. They had got discouraged. They had got tired. They were losing strength, But God frustrated, and they all returned to the wall, each and did their own part. So the people is working on the wall. To face the continued, threat, attacks, from those who didn't want to see Jerusalem rebuilt. From that day on, half of the men did the work, while the other half were equipped with the spear, the shield, the bow, the armor, the officer had posted himself behind all the people of Judah. Now they started getting scrapped, because the enemy just kept on coming up with stuff against them while they constantly still trying to build the wall. So the worker was spread out along the wall. So he devised a plan of defense that would unite and protect his people. Now, half of the men had worked while the other half had stood to guard. And so we see here that they're doing teamwork. To work as team to get the job done. Because while some was working, some was resting. And after they finished resting, the other one took a break and started working. So we see that they were doing teamwork. Now, who was building the wall? Those who carried material did their work with one hand and held a weapon in the other hand. And each of the builder was his sword at his side as he worked. But the man who sounded the trumpet stayed with him, the leader. So they got scrapped. They prepare. They working with one hand and they got the weapon in their other hand. So because remember they still got threat on their head. Why they threaten them. Telling them to don't work. Telling them don't finish this project. So the devil gonna always threaten you, but they just kept on working because they prayed and they realized they got God by their side. So they working with one hand with the weapon on the other hand. So it reminds us how to be vigilant. They rebuilding the wall around Jerusalem, but there been threats, by the enemy. And so they work on a wall with a weapon in one hand and work with the other hand. So each builder, all his swords scrapped. They're scrapped on the side. You know, they're ready. There ain't no stopping them. Ain't no stopping this work. I'm still gonna work with one hand. I'm gonna have the weapon in the other hand, but I ain't no stopping. There's no stopping. They're gonna keep on working. Keep on working. Even they got a weapon in their other hand, they're not gonna stop. So whenever you hear the sound of the trumpet, Join us there, and our God will fight for you. See, when it sound that sound, you know, that's when God gonna step in. Because God can always deliver your enemies to you. So for the relief, the anxiety of the people. Remember, they got anxiety. They wanted to quit. They said they was tired. They said they didn't have no strength. So for the relief, the anxiety of the people. They set up a communication system. A man who sounded the trumpet, stayed with them, and the people knew what to do if they heard it. So God will fight for them, and He will never leave them hanging dry. So we continue to work. We have the men holding the spear from the first light of dawn until the star came out. They was working like that. They meant they wasn't gonna stop. So we see they continue to work, building the sword in their other hand. They kept the clothes on and the weapon on their side, even when they had to go to get water. They had the weapon on them because they was threatened. They was threatened to stop working. So they ain't know when the people gonna march in to attack them. So they kept a weapon on them at all times. So we see that these guards took their responsibility serious. They was alert and they was prepared. Even though they had distraction, and threats, on their head, they complete their test. And it was long and it was hard. It's hard when you have all kind of stuff coming at you, and you're still trying to do the will of God and try to complete your test. It's hard, but you have to keep on pushing. So it was a long entire project, but they had the enemy didn't want it complete, you know, but they had a leader who was in prayer and connected with God and turn it over to God to guide them, you know. And so even God encouraged, some of the men, talking about their strength is failing them. They ain't got no more strength, they're tired, So God encouraged them, and they went on back, to finish their work. So even though you want to quit, because the devil, will be on your tail, but pray to God and keep it moving. Just like the leader did. He prayed and had God to guide them. God to guide them, Uh, and they had work and they had the weapon in the other hand. Meaning they was not gonna stop. So in a situation you think is impossible, pray to God. He can do the impossible. We see what he just did, with this story here. The leader had started praying. You had some of the workers, they got tired. They said they were losing strength. They wanted to quit. They were using all kind of excuses, but God encouraged them, and allowed them to go right back, and finish doing what they was doing. So when you want to quit, you know, but connect to God, you know, it will give you courage to finish what you started. Be persistent, in your prayer life and see how different it will be, you know. So there was another story about prayer. So lately weeks, I've been talking about prayer, because that's the only thing that's work. That's the only thing that will help us in our life. It's prayer. You know, reading God word. Dress yourself with the armor of God. I put that out last month too. Dress with the armor of God. Which is that word. We have to be dressed with that before we even leave our house. Before we even go out the door. We see they had a big project to do. They had the rebuilding of the wall back, and you know how tall the walls is. You know how big Jerusalem is. But they had all kind of stress. And that's how it is. You're gonna have all kind of stuff coming at you. Because they don't want you to complete what God wants you to do. The devil did not want them to complete what God had wanted them to do. You know, that was a mission that they was on. They could not stop. Even they wanted to try, they could not stop. They started using excuses. Face started waving. They was tired. They was getting weak. They wanted to throw in the towel. But prayers work. And God is a person that can always encourage you to go back and do it because He will not let you quit. So the guys did not quit. And then the threats just kept on coming on. Because, see, once you don't give in to the devil and you still being connected with God and you still doing what God wants you to do, even though you're being laughed at, criticized, mocked, but you still doing it, then the devil still getting mad. The devil still getting mad. They just kept on working. And then the Ammonites, they got mad. Man, they still working? You know, they still working? I thought they had stopped. I thought I did my job by, criticizing them. I thought they had stopped. If you're a strong person, if you don't have no low self-esteem, no matter how the devil keep laughing at you and mocking you, you will not stop. You will keep on moving forward. And we see by they kept on moving forward among the criticizers, the job got done. you know. So that's all the word I have for you today. Just keep on praying. No matter what situation it is, no matter how long you think it is, a lot of times you might want to feel like quitting. You might have doubt, but you have to keep on praying to release it out of you and keep moving forward. So that's all the word I have for you tonight. Y'all have a blessed and safe night, and I see y'all in the next video.